Good morning, wood ticks and patriots. Had a little technical difficulties there. Live from Lake Wish I Be Gone. It's the Just Jim Show. And we just got back from a little bit of vacation. And we found out that let's see if this works. None of the audio's working. Why not? I don't know. Come on. Yeah, that works, I guess. I don't know. Apparently we have no music today. Anyway, we found out that one of our shows, July 27th, 2022, was canceled by YouTube for violating community standards. So we're going to talk about community standards today a little bit. It's going to be an ad-lib kind of show. If, in fact, you have any inkling to think that this show is going to violate community standards because we talk about community standards, feel free, because I'll guarantee you that we will have legal staff on the appeal. Because we just went through everything, and we will go through everything that was talked about on July 27th. None of which violates community standards because we have the documentation for everything that we talked about, which is fine and dandy. If they want to put the load on Just Jim, so be it. Then I want to see them put the load on MSNBC, CBS, NBC, for publishing the stupid articles that I talked about. Yeah, what do you think about that? Kind of an idea. Anyway, since I don't have music, I'll try and fix the music thing in just a minute. But anyway, welcome to the show. If you know the number, you're welcome to call in and voice your opinion. If, in fact, I choose to put you on the air, which is not, how can I say it? It's kind of uncommon that I put anybody on the air, but I do occasionally. And with that, let's start. Let me go to a commercial break right off the bat. We're going to talk about community standards, CRT, and some other things that are being introduced into the Wisconsin Department of Education, which means that once and if it's installed, it'll be in every school district in Wisconsin. What else I got? There was something else over there. But anyway, we'll get to it, and I'm sure it'll be a great show as always. Be back in a flash. And here we are. Welcome back. This is the Just Jim Show. And as the title implies, it's Just Jim in the morning. From the wonderful shores of Lake Wish I Be Gone, which is about 900 miles east of Lake Wobegon. If you know where Lake Wobegon, everything is perfect. Kids are excelling. There's always a happy smile on everybody's face. But guess what? Around Lake Wish I Be Gone, maybe things aren't so perfect. Well, there's community standards. As I said, we're going to talk about community standards quite a bit today. Community standards in Lake Wish Woebegone are going to be entirely different than the community standards in Lake Wish I Be Gone. Simply because in Lake Woebegone, everything is perfect. There's an answer for everything, and there's no waves being made. Although the show was based on the happenings around Black River Falls, Wisconsin. Now, though it's in Minnesota, if you look up the background story on Lake Woebegone, you'll find out that it was actually inspired by kind of weird things that happen around Black River Falls mining community, and from days days gone by, and Black River Falls and the surrounding areas there. And I can't recollect, what's going on here. Sorry. I may have technical difficulties today. I let the system sit, walked away, and went on vacation, blah, blah. Some of you saw my posts. Some of you didn't. And if you don't, well, it is what it is, right? Anyway, so that was how Keller decided, I think that was his name, decided to do the show where everything is fine, everybody got an answer, or it's swept under the rug and nobody cares. Apparently, in Lake Wish I Be Gone, people care. They talk about things that matter to them and national interests. And while we are wide awake, we are not necessarily woke. Now, don't get all upset. Turn in the show to the YouTube authorities and Facebook authorities, whatever. Let's take a look. Let's start off by trying to define community standards. Now, for those of you old enough to remember this, community standards were always the veil of decency for pornography. The Supreme Court, back when, if my memory serves me, talked about what was good in one community or acceptable may not very well be acceptable in another community. So, hence, community standards were formed by our judiciary, the Supreme Court, which many of you today don't care for. But they are still our supreme ultimate decision makers about what it is we do as a country. Now, I'm not going to get into the most recent decisions of the Supreme Court because you like them or you don't, one or the other. You know how that goes. I got to move this out of my way here on the desktop. But again, when I'm talking about community standards, it was originally intended to be over obscenities or obscenity, content that was either acceptable or not. And coming out, it's kind of funny that what I'm talking about, where am I here? Right here. Community standards. It was originally talked about in a Supreme Court California decision. That libtard heaven out there in California, 1973, established a definition for obscenity for criminal prosecution and other, quote unquote, other purposes. And I think that you need to understand that other purposes is kind of all encompassing. Now, in the decisions that were made in 73, now that may mean that they might not be applicable in today's society, but I'm going to say yes, they are. Now, I'm sure there's other case law that came up, excuse me, of which Larry Flint from Hustler Magazine over here on, let's get back to this thing. Larry Flint over here in 79 said that he didn't believe he got a fair trial. He was found guilty on 11 misdemeanor charges of obscenity by the Fulton State Court. He said, I felt there was collusion between the prosecution and the judge. Now, right there, my talking about the collusion factor. Now, it did not. This case over there doesn't have anything to do with the presidential election, which is what YouTube is claiming my last show. That's what violated the community standards. Now, of course, we'll appeal it. I'm sure we're going to win it because I have every piece of document that of what we talked about. I'll go listen to the show again and we'll find out, which is what I know. I'm an editorialist. I talk about what I think, what I feel, and what I see going on around me. That's just my show. The things I talk about are well-documented items that are presented through the Associated Press, the United Press, BBC, many other legitimate news sources. I'll bet they are slanted in their presentation to news organizations, i.e. me, and other news organizations, so that they're easily sent from a text or an article. The PDF file can be sent right to the teleprompter, so those little glamorous eyes and teeth can smile and just hit the roller button as they sit and talk about whatever is in front of them. And that's what news organizations have turned into. Now, I'm sure I'm going to be blasted for community standards there because I'm telling the truth. I've been in production for 42 years. I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's get back to this. It was a 5-4 decision by Warren Burger, Chief Justice, that a trier of fact, usually a jury, must determine whether the average person applying contemporary community standards. Now, that's an interesting use of the English language. A contemporary community, applying contemporary community standards that would find the work taken as a whole appeals to the prurient issues, right over here, depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct defined by the applicable state law, which is states' rights, which is very much what the current Supreme Court said. States' rights. Got nothing to do with me as a federal government telling you what to do. They're saying that people overstep their bounds. I'll bet it was acceptable probably by community standards back when, 20 years ago, whenever the original RVW case went through. So then it was just, it sat in acceptable values until recently. So, and then it lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Now, that's a very broad-based commentary. Literary, artistic, political. Oh, what's going on today, YouTubers? Or scientific value. Oh, Fujiyama. Yeah, get the poke, don't get the poke. I don't care. But I am going to make an editorial commentary on what I see by the information that I've acquired, all of which comes from official sources. There's no fly-by-night sources in any of the things that I talk about. And people say, where do you get your information? I get my information from the same place that your NBC, CBS, all the other affiliate, MSNBC, they get the same stuff I get. I choose to talk about it, bring it out in the public. That's the difference between independent reporters and network reporters. I'm not obligatory to anybody. I pay the bills around here. It's my show. It's my opinion. And that's all it is. So therefore, it falls under the artistic clauses of what's been determined to be a community standards. We'll argue that out with the YouTube yahoos and Facebook. I'm a registered press outlet, political advertiser with both organizations. They make me submit a pile of paperwork every year, 2 years, just before election cycles. And I have to provide documents of what it is we do following FCC rules. Well, boy, we do. Which reminds me, for when you hear that noise, that means I'm giving money, which I just did. I just donated some money to Camp for Kids. They're kids with cancer, and they need a break like everybody else who has cancer. Again, I swear on the air like a drunken sailor, but that's me. That's my editorial ever. Whatevers. This is not a kid-friendly show, so if you're listening to this, put the kiddies away until I'm done talking, because I have been known to go off. But I donate my money to nonprofits, try to do a little good for my bad. You know, it's the way it is. Anyway, and applying the Miller test came, let's go back here to this. The Miller test came at a time when internal migration, increased travel, and emerging technologies in telecommunications and media distribution had led to an establishment of a truly national media market. Oh, that would be like today, where people can do their thing. That's right. And we do our thing, don't we? Yes, we do. And you apply those standards. Berger said he sided with those who thought communities ought to be able to resist the encroachment of materials inconsistent with local values. Again, you go, XYZ town to next town over, and there's different ways of doing things. He said that the First Amendment did not require the people of Maine or Mississippi to accept public depiction of conduct found tolerable in Las Vegas or New York City. Isn't it interesting that even back then, the differences of those slime towns, what did she call it? Barter towns. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Back then were already visible to those sitting on the bench. They knew that those places were what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in New York, well, it hits the national news, but it stays in New York, supposedly. And I'm not sure about that, but hey, back then, Berger understood that. You're going to go to Vegas, you're going to go to where's the Mustang ranches down there? Reno? I don't even know. Somewhere out in Nevada. That was okay within their community. They were going to run whorehouses and govern them and license them and this, that, and the other thing. While it's not okay here in my neighborhood at Lake Wish I Be Gone, it apparently is still okay out in the Nevada area. So be it. If I choose to not go there, I choose to not go there. Exactly like the shows that are being kicked off every major privately held outlet for independents, the likes of me, Beck, Felton, everybody. You go to YouTube, you go to Facebook, they wave the flag. Well, we're independent. We can set our own standards because it's free. You're not paying to use the services. Poppycock. I'm going to say outright poppycock. And I'm going to guarantee that stone-faced Meta owner and the rest of them have no leg to stand on in a Supreme Court applying these rules to community standards. They'll say, oh, you don't have to use it. Not true. It's like walking down the street. The other litmus test that came about was the ability in the First Amendment. The big argument in the First Amendment was, can you scream fire in a crowded movie theater? back when. Some of you youngsters are not going to understand this case, what I'm going to talk about. It was a court case where do you have the right, First Amendment right of free speech, to buy a ticket or sneak in and sit down watching a #1 feature film in a movie theater and then holler out, "Fire"? Was that legal? Yes, it is. With a caveat that the end result of your action, and this is where they think, Facebook, YouTube, think that because they're free, they have this right, and it's not true. The end result may or may not. In a crowded theater with people rushing to get out 2-3 doors, you're probably going to have bodily injury, bodily harm, among other things. And therefore, the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that because of the end result. Now, in the scheme of that argument, Facebook, YouTube, and any Twitter, any other free speech is not like a paid theater. Free speech arenas cannot dictate by a community standard. If in fact they offer alternatives, if you want to, yeah, okay. If anywhere in the world, if you want to run porn, you've got to have a age litmus that you must say you're over 18 or 21, whatever it might be, to be able to go onto their website and view what it is they allow to be streamed. The same may or may not be true with how the free and communities of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they don't, well, I guess they do ask you how old you are. Therefore, the adult content, if any, that's being shown has the choice of, much like televisions in days of old and even now, just don't watch the show. I say that about my show all the time. You don't like what I'm talking about? Then don't watch it. It's okay. No biggie. I do it for me and for anybody else who wants to listen and wake up, which is fine. If I got 10 viewers, so be it. 10 people, they probably agree with me, or maybe they don't. Maybe 9 out of 10 do, and the 10th one, maybe I can convince them that they ought to wake up, see what's going on. Smell the roses, they say. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court is saying, that each community is different. And if, in fact, the policies of these quote-unquote free social media platforms do not want any political talk, do not want an opinion about medical information, which I've just read some of the standards for YouTube. You want to know who the official quote-unquote people are that YouTube is saying you can't violate what they say? It's interesting. Local medical directors and the WHO, the World Health Organization. And if you're not awake, you know that that's a woke statement. World Health Organization has nothing to do with United States of America, my America, your America. While you may want it or wish it to have something to do with you, it doesn't. It has not a thing to do with America. They may be guidance for the CDC, which is an American organization, whom Fauci worked for, as he's going to retire at the end of the term, he says, and who also funneled money to the World Health Organization that then gave their dollars to Wuhan. If you follow the money and then follow the Constitution, what happened to those things? This little thing here, it's called the Constitution of the United States of America. It's what governs us. It's what the Supreme Court rules on, makes their rules of order on. This back then in the 70s, and it was further back than that. He sided with those that thought communities might be able to resist the encroachment of materials inconsistent with local values. That's where, hear me when I say this, that is where the legal crux comes in for YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other social media that wants to enforce their woke community standards. Well, we're a community. No, you're not. You've opened it up to the public, much like walking down the street, having a conversation, and some, how can I say this? Some purple, pink, polka dotted slime ball is doing gyrations that are not necessarily part of a community standard in public. This is a private show. Though it's open to the public, it's a private show. You don't have to watch it. But walking down the street, I have to see it because I can't unsee it. How's that? That's where they have a problem. That's where these organizations and companies have a legal problem. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV, and I turned down a free ride law degree at Marquette University decades ago. I chose not to become a slimeball lawyer. Sorry, if you're offended by that, don't watch the show. Because every one of them follows the law of the Queen. Though it's the Constitution, the law, yeah, it's another story. We'd do another show on that one. But anyway, Justice Brennan Jr. and other Miller dissenters thought the national media market required national standards, which a nation unto himself, Mr. Meta, Mr. YouTube, all of them. They try to build, and that's what a business does. You build a world, you say, come on in, use my services. Some pay for it, some don't. Excuse me. Here's some swag. Get a Just Jim coffee cup. Your morning Java will taste so much better. Such defined precisely enough to avoid unconstitutional vagueness under due process clause. Such vagueness also had First Amendment. I got to see if I'm still streaming. Also had First Amendment implications because any attempt to define and criminalize obscene expression. There you go. Necessarily would affect non-obscene and protected expression, which is exactly the situation here today on my show and many other social media shows that are independent, not network paid for. Independents who pick up their own tab by hook or crook, or subscriptions and monetization of viewership, fall exactly under this. That's non-obscene and protected expression. It's an editorial. Define what an editorialist is. It is what every NBC, ABC, CBS is today. They're opinions of the network that owns the station you watch. It's an editorial. It's got nothing to do with reading an AP file, which is slanted from the get-go. I can read some of them to you. The authors are, some authors of the UP, AP news stories, BBC, are very slanted. They're very opinionated and very, very editorialized in the language that they use to write the story. You, as a human being, you can't get away from that. It's the way we are. It's the way we're made. We've been brought up to think that this cup is black. So we write like this cup is black. Gotcha. If you don't get that, think about that thought. And there's three concerns over applying community standards. This is they were addressing strictly obscenity, but it's broad reaching. First, while the court explained that the concept of community standards does not refer to any national standards, which is, can you see the difference? Community standards, national standards. And the boys over at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, every other organization that tries to push community standards and being safe place for everyone doesn't understand you don't have to watch the show. Courts have permitted consideration of a community as a range from statewide, including nationalized or nation-stated size states such as California, Texas, Illinois, to a division of the federal district court or a 3-county metropolitan region. The community is the community. Second, that to the extent that producers of adult material can determine local sensitivities, they must either avoid community with the most restrictive standards or self-censor on their national distribution to the taste of those prosecutions against adult entertainment business. United States versus Extreme Associates, Third Circuit Court, 2006. Now, that will be where those social media outlets will claim they have their stake in a community standards. It says, well, if we have, and I'm going to tell you, this article had nothing to do with artificial intelligence. And that's what most social media platforms are doing right now. They're using AI to pick out keywords that may or may not be offensive. And the term offensive in this decision has nothing to do with what's offensive in the 2000 XYZ presidential election. Because we have a bunch of flag waving libtards. Oh, that offends me. Don't talk about that. Blah, 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 blah. Now, ultimately, there's a part of me that says that may very well be true, that the system worked, but was the system violated in and of itself? I don't know that. Here's where I'll probably get booted off the air on this one, because my opinion, my personal editorial opinion is, I have no clue about it, but I have every right to talk about the possibility that the process was violated. Now, if in fact 2,000 Mules, because I used that as an example in my show, I believe I'll have to go back and double check the show, that I used that as an example for people to see what occurred. Now, I didn't make it. I know the guy that did make it, and the entourage around him, but I can't say that the video was edited correctly or biasly. Because in the edit room, we know what the hell we do. We can make anything look almost like anything. So that's the part that will be arguable, and ultimately it'll probably go to the Supreme Court under that guise. Now, there's a couple other things we're going to talk about at community standards, which vary from this. Right now, I'm just talking about my show 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that got booted. It says, second, to the extent, my bad, where federal agents made online purchases of adult films in Pittsburgh, that city, brotherly love. And and here we go. Mr. Lasky's wife, they used to live in Pittsburgh, and Fucci sold baby parts. I talked about this relentlessly. The city of brotherly love. They'll kill you with love. The fact that so they bought from a distributor out in L.A., but they lived in Pennsylvania, blah, blah, blah. Internet has complicated community standards. Now, here we go. We're getting into this. Excuse me. All these concerns are magnified by the Internet, which is an article of current day standing, and the Child Online Protection Act of 1998, COPA, on the grounds that community standard tests would essentially require every web communication to abide by the most restrictive community standards. Now, that is where YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everybody else is going to fall on that clause. Undeniable, they say. Not true. Because even my program says that it's adult oriented, not kiddie oriented. And I tell people when I'm pushing the show, you got kidlets, take them out of the room, because I may swear. I may provide content that's not applicable to younger generation. That's me. That's my show. That's my producers. It's what we do. But at the same time, if you have to talk about something that holds distaste by some, or holds disgust by some, it's an adult entertainment area, editorial entertainment. And when I talked about the schools up in Canada, and I talked about how the babies were killed, indigenous children were killed, abused, hence the Pope was just up there. Now, if I get kicked off again, it'll be because of this. Because it's not tasteful, especially to those who are fervently religious. How can, if you follow what the Pope did in Argentina, down South America, you'll know what I'm talking about. Man will sin, man will do things for his own goodwill against what's called a community standard, what would be acceptable. Everybody in the Jewish Jesuit community will say, that's unacceptable. You can't talk about that. Let's bury it in the back room. Why do you think Jewish people have such fervency in talking about the Holocaust? Because it happened. We can't let it happen again. That never happened. It's Hollywood. One of my favorite movies is Schindler's List. You ever watch it? It's an absolute masterpiece of movie making. And the closing scenes are even more powerful than the movie. Don't tell me it didn't happen. History writes itself. Yeah. Yeah, they go on to say, I'm getting tired of talking about this, but it's a needed discussion. The Third Circuit's concerns concerning the cautioning that the community standards of the most Puritan of communities would produce a heckler's internet veto affecting the rest of the nation, which is part and parcel of what is going on right here. This was written in 2009 by Ronald Steiner, Ph.D. of political science, University of Minnesota. It's stuff that comes out of, here we go. You don't like what I'm talking about? Send me an email. I don't care for much that goes on in Minnesota. After the last 2 years of, shall we say, social protest, I'd have to say not on my watch, but hey, that's what it's all about for you. That's what, and I hate to say it, that down here, let's go back to the scene, Free Speech Center and Middle Tennessee State University is a free speech center. You ought to spend a minute or two and look up those things, a couple of things down there. You might not like what you find. And welcome to the internet. Excuse me. Wow, I scarfed down some food this morning. I'm talking back. And with that, I want to take another commercial break. We'll be right back on the Just Jim Show. Welcome back. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Whoop, co-host missing. We're working on that, folks. You don't want to listen to me babble on forever and a day. We're looking for. I talked to a couple people, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you, but I was contemplating. And with that, we're talking about community standards today, what it does or doesn't affect in small-time, independent news organizations or editorialists. I mean, if you take a look at, what's his name? I can't think of all of you guys. They got their own shows, and they are very idea-oriented and personal opinionated. It's what they do. It's what we do. It's my opinion. It's an editorial. I'm an editorialist. I talk about stuff, give you my opinion. You don't like my opinion, don't watch the show. That's fine and dandy. But I will talk about things that the networks will not talk about. And here is one of them. Now, I used to live in a great state of Wisconsin. Excuse me. Boy, I'm sorry. I scarfed it down. I used to live in a great state of Wisconsin. Now I live in a state that's upside down. And just today, this morning, I saw someone posted an upside down flag. And we're going to talk about that in just a couple seconds. You know who you are if you're watching. This has to do with school curriculum in the state of Wisconsin. Now, community standards, as applicable as they are in many different venues, community standards mean continuity across the board, or what the average person would think that what is good to be taught in Ashland, Wisconsin, would be good to teach in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, would be good to teach in Port Washington, Wisconsin. Any little community in the state of Wisconsin, supposedly under the auspices of the Department of Education. Now, that is something that I would venture to say would be acceptable in any community in the state of Wisconsin. Now, the state of Wisconsin's Department of Education, you would think, would be following a national Department of Education guideline. So that if, in fact, the National Department of Education says we must teach math in the old way, they learn the multiplication tables, none of this new age math stuff, that then the states would be under the guise of national orders to teach math in the old-fashioned multiplication table way. You would think. Not necessarily the truth, because it appears that states' rights say, oh, we have the right to teach our kids what we want to teach them. I'll bet reading, writing, and arithmetic, the three primary goals of supposed public education, are XYZ, XYZ, and how we do it is our business, not your business. Don't tell us how to teach. That's what the states claim. And our current governor came from the Department of Education and instituted, I'm sorry, crap. I'll give you some money for that. Ain't not a swear word, but I'll give you some money. While he was running the Department of Education, he loosened all the shoelaces of all the school districts in the 72s, or more than that, 100 and whatever they are, 300, I forget, I'll look it up. In each of the state counties of Wisconsin, 72 counties, so that's where I came off the top of my head, that he then loosened the shoelaces and said, oh, yeah, well, here's my general guidelines. How you apply it to an individual child is how you get it done, whether it's special ed or mainstream ed, whatever. Now, today, somebody is raising the flag of, here's a fourth grade curriculum that teaches your gender identity might be different than what people thought you were born. I have to get a Zoom, a remote Zoom, so you can zoom in and out on my face because I'm giving you one hell of a face. I'm just going to let you listen to this, and then we'll talk about it.
To me, one of the worst ones was this book. I have it. It Feels Good to Be Yourself. This is available for fourth graders. And in this book, it explains to you, I just finished reading it like 2 minutes ago. In this book, it explains to you that the people that are in the room when you're born, they mislabel you because only you can assign your gender. Well, this is available to fourth grade. And fourth graders are 8 and 9 years old. They should be worried about, who stole my Barbie doll on the playground and why didn't I get a chance up at kickball? Not, am I allowed to call Angela her? Can I call John him? Or am I going to get in trouble for that? Well, the K-12 mind isn't really equipped for this graphic sexual material, and it confuses them. And if they have to learn that they have to call their best friend Ava, they or him now, it confuses them, and they come home and they say, Mom, why do I have to do that? And they really shouldn't be having. They really should not be faced with this kind of garbage.
And we'll get back to that. Let her finish. She's the president of No Left Turn in Education in the state of Wisconsin. A book made available. Let me ask the $1 million question. And you as parents, grandparents, get up off your couch potato butts, walk into your school library, and find the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. See if it's in your library. See if it's in your public library. And then look at that book and see if it's there. I'm not going to say a whole lot more right now, but
they should be learning to read, write, proper socialization skills. My kids were in private school at this point in their life, in these young grades, and I'm really grateful for that because this has been around for a long time. It's really goes against what parents want for their kids. Mm-hmm. This shouldn't be an opt-out.
So, in her opinion, excuse me, in her opinion, it's not what parents want. Now we're going to talk, wait a minute. We've been talking about community standards. So now you have a community in the public schools. She said her children were raised in the parochial school or private schools. A parochial, I'm assuming, and you know what happens when you assume. You betcha. Ding, ding. That those who are woke, and I can get into some of my local university stuff right now that's going on, that my taxpayers and your taxpayer dollars are paying for. And in the scheme of a community, do you have the right to refuse your tax dollars to support that crap that's going on? Now, public education, state says, oh, you got to pay your school taxes, state school taxes, this, that, and the other thing. And then this shit comes out. There it is. If I get thrown off, I get thrown off. And that, I can't say any plainer than that. This stuff has been written and is introduced into school libraries, classrooms, fourth graders. He, she, it, thou, them, it sounds like Latin. I learned Latin a long time ago. Never used a lick of it. If I was going to be a pharmacist, maybe back when. Yeah, I don't know. This has crept into. This is what parents don't want. If you sit down and talk to your school, it used to be a PTA. I don't know what they're called anymore. They've changed the name so that they're politically correct. If you had a PTA, you know what I'm talking about. if you had a PTA and you got everybody together that was parents of all the kids in school, and you said, do you want this book to be taught to fourth graders or third graders as part of their daily curriculum? And it's not only one book. I can't tell you how many have been written. And on the other side of that coin, how many have been tossed out because they didn't teach woke material? I got a friend of mine north of me, Prince Books. We're going to have a meeting shortly, and I may be selling it on the show. I hope I do. I hope I do. But you look at that book and you say, what in God's green earth does a fourth grader need to? Bobby thinks she's Barbie today, so I got to call him, her, it, or Barbie, or yeah. What's that got to do with? While socialization is important within a classroom as you're growing up, people are people. There's no identifying this, identifying that. Now, I'll probably get this show will probably get canceled too. I'm not calling anybody names. I'm talking about what's socially acceptable. What is the norm? And yeah, while the flag waving bozos turn around and say, this is the norm. No, it's only your norm. It's not the community's norm. What you do at home is your business. Take it home. You don't need to flag wave in the classroom, but that's what's going on here.
This should be an opt-in. And bureaucrats should not be telling us when it's time to sexually educate our children. Bureaucrats need to stay out of that.
Pretty much the way it goes. And I'm going to relate to a show I did a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. No, it was 2 weeks ago, I think, where one of our quote-unquote Republican, which is going to fit hand in hand here, one of our quote-unquote conservative Republicans wrote a bill that had in the Wisconsin legislature's language. The language exists, and I give you the number if I can find the bill, having to do with nurses in summer camps for our kids. Now, and I said this back when. This book pertains to the United States of America. It's Constitution. It's our basic laws by which amendments are made. The state of Wisconsin, conservative Senator Feinstein had the unmitigated gall to use the words Canadian and province, referring to the licensure of nursing staff that would be acceptable and wouldn't have to follow or take a state exam to be able to work in a summer camp in the state of Wisconsin. And people look at me and say, what? What does Canada and a province have to do with Wisconsin? Not a damn thing. Yet this person, this state senator, co-authored a bill that said Canadian licensure and province licensure will not prevent or will prevent that person from going through the certification process in the state of Wisconsin. I said it back then, who the hell do you think you are? There, the Camp for Kids is getting money. You can claim you're a conservative, but if you write language like that, and you think because you're conservative, nobody's going to know about it, but then you post it in a Felkowski Senate letter and wave the flag of, I did that. Yeah, I did that. I'm going to say resign. I said it back then. Resign. If that's what your understanding of the English language is, get the hell out of office. Which Mary Loudenbach, where is it? Let me look. Yesterday was election day in the state of Wisconsin. Primary day. that, here we go. Under the guise of, hang on, where are we? Oh, let's see. I got to tie this phone in. Here's how it sits. Vote today for Amy Loudenbach. Right there. Let me look at see if I can get it on the other camera. Let me see if I can get that. Where are you? Yep, there we go. Amy Loudenbach. There's the phone number, 920-557-94XYZ, whatever it is. At August 9th at 8:20 in the morning. Vote Amy Loudenbach today. Help make Wisconsin's Secretary of State work for you and be directly accountable to voters. Wait a minute. Let's just stop the presses here. Stop the presses. What time do the polls open? 8 o'clock. At 8:20, maybe 8:21, I got the exact time on here. This hit my phone. As Secretary of State, Amy will add value and transparency to the Office of Secretary of State, modernize services, deliver results, and make the office work for the people. Advocate for a new model of overseeing and administering elections in the state of Wisconsin. Now I'm gonna say this plain and simple. Amy, you did win the primary, but I'm gonna work against you. Because if you think there's another Republican who may have a grasp for the laws, the election laws in the state of Wisconsin, the polls are open at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm standing waiting to vote, and my cell phone goes, zzz, zzz, zzz. I got a message, and here this bitch is trying to tell me who to vote for. I cannot wear an Amy Loudenbach shirt in the polls. I can't stand outside and pass out information about Amy Loudenbach. Can I? You violate election law if you do that. You cannot advertise at a polling place. Yet this bitch thought that she was going to reach me before I go and vote or while I'm voting and sway me to give her my vote. You want to know something, Amy? I did not vote for you. I will not vote for you. If this is your impression of the Wisconsin state election laws, I do not want you in office. You do not have the right to walk into my cell arena with your bull crap while the polls are open, telling me to vote for you because you're going to bring integrity to the election laws in the state of Wisconsin. Sorry, honey, get out of the race. Move, go retire. It's the same as Feinstein's Canadian and province language talking about Wisconsin. It's got nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with living in the swamp. This is the crap that woke America loves. Well, I can do this because it's just a little election laws are they're just suggestions. Speed limits are just suggestions. If you don't get this, the same people who think flying a flag upside down is inappropriate, you can't do that unless it serves your own interest. Has nothing to do with the conservative American patriot interest of our state, our local government, community standards. I'll call her. Amy, you don't like what I'm saying, you call up the show. I'll put you on. I'll have a debate with you on the air. I don't give a shit who you are, who you think you are. This violates Wisconsin state election law unequivocally. And if you have the cojones in your legal staff, you give a call. Let's have it out. You can come talk to Just Jim. I'm going to throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. There is no reason for this whatsoever. Or Felkowski, not Feinstein, Felkowski. Same thing. You want to call and talk about it on the air? What stroke of brilliance did you have when you added Canadian and province terms to Wisconsin statutes? While we may reside close to Canada, we had nothing to do with libtards up there. You know? I'm talking directly to you, the political structure that thinks that we, the people, don't get it. We do get it when we think about it, when we talk about it. You ask anybody, why did this hit my phone after the polls are open? And then the same basically holds true with when we run ads for candidates on television, radio. You buy a block of time, and it runs, XYZ or concurrent with another one of your opponent's ad campaigns. I get that. We do it for clients all the time. But then the election is over, and you see 50,000 more ads for candidates, win, lose, or draw. They bought the time, they bought the block of time between XYZ, and the stations are not dummies. They turn around and offer you a block of time a week before to 2 weeks after the election. Oh, but we'll get you in before the election. No, 90% of your ads, 75% of your ads run after the election, whether you win or lose, because you bought them. That's the answer to why you still see ads after an election date for candidates. It's hilarious, but if our clients pay us to do it, we just, that's what's available to us. You buy it the best possible time that you can buy. If this was sold to Laudenbach, people in her campaign don't have a clue, should not be there, should not be working to get her elected to anything, not even a dog catcher, let alone Secretary of State. Honey, you ain't got a clue. You do not have a clue, and I do not want you in office in the state of Wisconsin. If we're going to turn this thing around, if we're going to circle back and get things the way they're supposed to be, you don't deserve to be in office. Neither does Felkowski and any of her staff. You don't have a clue about the real world. You don't have a dose of reality check. I'll be right back. The Just Jim Show. Hey, welcome back to the Just Jim Show. Hey, here, I'm sorry, where are we here? All right, there it is. Yeah, don't forget, like and subscribe to the Just Jim Show. You got to know, you got news, send it in, the news at thejustjimshow.com. We'll take a look at things. And part and parcel, that's exactly what happened here, I believe. Can you see this? What does it say? It says the United States Senate and Electronic Communications, the show that got canceled by YouTube. And I'm going to bet this is the letter that and/or our comments that we got canceled over. And we'll argue it because it is a letter from the United States Senate and the FBI. And I'm sorry that YouTube, Facebook, believe they're above the United States Senate and the FBI. This letter was written July 25th, so 2 days, day and a half after we got it, we went on the air and talked about it. And yes, it makes some serious accusations, and I'll guarantee you that the film at 11 or 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock news never talked about this. They got it. Every one of your so-called favorite news stations, from Fox on down the road, didn't talk about this. You want to know why? Exactly what happened to my show. Got thrown off the air. Because we talk about the true. Yes, it's the true. Just because you say it didn't happen doesn't mean it didn't happen or isn't real. You know, because I gotta, excuse me, I gotta show you this thing. We talked about the Polish. It's supposed to go on the same show that we got the letter from the FBI, blah, blah. And it was, at the time, we had it on cam over here on the other screen. Where Poland, a respected Polish scientific institute has classified domestic cats as invasive alien species. It could not have been the reason why I got thrown off the air that day. The only other possibility, this was on 727 too, coming out of MSNBC, see that right there? MSNBC, had to do with, is abortion an enumerated constitutional right? And we talked about that among the letter and indigenous people and the Pope's visit. I tied into them, hey, act the fool, get called a fool. That's exactly the way it should work and does work, at least on this show. And let me get out of here. We'll go back over here. And welcome to the flag being shown and flown upside down. Yes, it is legal to fly the flag upside down. I don't care whether you believe it or not. You know who you are that did it, and I applaud you for doing it because, yes, many years ago, I flew the flags. Actually, I had multiple flags on an income property that we owned down in southeastern Wisconsin. Excuse me. And I flew my flags. I went from right side up to upside down. Had to do with the election committee. Tommy Thompson, I think, was governor at the time. I can't remember. But same kind of thing. Was it? I forget who it was. Who was running? I don't remember, Carter or something. I don't remember. It was a presidential cycle. Flew it upside down. And of all the neighbors I lived in Wauwatosa at the time. Of all my neighbors, one person stopped by. Only one. Asked why I had the flags upside down. He knew why the flag was flying upside down. He wanted to know if I knew. And I told him, all right. Country's in trouble. The country is in trouble with the allotments and allowances that we have happening around us. And Kat Kamek is another person that is quite vocal in her personal presentations about what's going on in Congress. But I applaud you for posting the flag upside down because you are absolutely correct. We are in deep doo-doo. The American way of life has been infiltrated. And remember, was it Yamamoto? When asked why they didn't invade America? Because behind every blade of grass, Now, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just making a statement that somebody else made as an observation of America. If and when, I said all the time, this isn't going to end well. It cannot end well the way things are going. If the election cycle doesn't happen, I don't know that it's going to end well. And with that, you're going to listen to Kat for a second, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Yeah, come on, turn the sound on here.
I know we are all seeing.
Let's go back.
Hey guys, Congresswoman Kat Cammack here, and I know we are all seeing the news. A lot of us were waking up to the news today, and my entire evening and morning we have been on phone calls dealing with this insane, unprecedented raid on President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. And so I wanted to just check in with you guys and give you an update about what happened, what comes next, and really just kind of set the stage so you have all of the best information that we have. As you can tell, I've been on the road really since early this morning, and so you'll have to forgive the hat and everything, but I jotted down a few notes. I just got off a phone call and thought that you would be interested to hear some of the latest details. So here's what we know. Last night, FBI agents raided President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. From the reporting and details that we are still getting, his lawyers were prohibited from being present when the FBI entered his home and while they searched his residence. That right there is absolutely unconscionable. We are a nation of due process and law and order, and we have an absolute right, every single American, whether you are a president or not, you have a right to legal counsel and representation. And even though he was not there, his lawyers were denied any ability to be there while the FBI went through his home.
And with that, I have to make a comment. Let's see here. I'll do that. With that, I have to say that while that right is inalienable, I have to say that it's probable that this happened. And I got to ask the $1 million question. If a subpoena is being served, do his lawyers have the right to know it's going to be served ahead of time? That's my only question, is the speed bump in this thing here. Yes, you're right, Kat. You have the right for legal representation, but does that mean that you knew this raid was going to happen? I do not know, but I do care.
That's one thing that we know has been reported, and that is very public and forward-facing, and just one of the many issues that are wrong with this entire situation. I think it's safe to say that given the reporting that is out there currently, this is an abject failure of due process. And it is absolutely mind-numbingly infuriating what we are seeing. So there has been reporting suggesting that the FBI was going after President Trump for the Presidential Records Act, okay? Keep in mind that the Presidential Records Act is to preserve documents relating to a person's term in office. Okay, so why have we not seen the requested documents from the National Archivist? Well, we haven't. And so that is one of the things that is missing in this whole equation. Seems pretty fishy and politically motivated, if you ask me, or really anyone with common sense. So we know that they're using, they being the Biden regime, and let's just call it what it is, a regime, because this is the kind of stuff that happens in third world countries. This doesn't happen in the United States of America. We don't see federal agencies being turned into political weapons for people for political purposes. That doesn't happen in this country, but under the Biden regime, apparently it does. So they are using the Presidential Records Act as justification to go after President Trump. Interesting. You want to know what happens if the Presidential Records Act is violated? Well, here's what it says. It says that if the Presidential Records Act is found to have been violated per U.S. code, that person shall forfeit their current office or, as it says, shall be disqualified from holding any future office. Now, pretty clear cut, in my opinion, that this is politically motivated from the Biden regime to go after President Trump to keep him from holding future office, right? So here's what's happened since the raid occurred. As we learn more details about exactly what they were looking for, exactly what they're trying to do, we, being Republicans, we have already started taking action. I just got off the phone. There were several members on this phone call. Jim Jordan was one of them. And he, being the ranking member, the top Republican on the Judiciary Committee, laid out what the game plan is. And here's what you guys need to know so that you know that there are things happening. It may just not be getting reported because we all know that the mainstream media is totally against us. So here you go. Document preservation. There has been multiple document preservation requests that have gone out. That is the first step. That goes to the DOJ, that goes to the FBI, that goes to all relevant agencies to make sure that every single communication is preserved so that when we take the house back, that becomes evidence as we investigate. We have requested all archivist requests demanded to know exactly what the National Archives is demanding from the Presidential Records Act. Also, copies of the warrant have been demanded so we know exactly what was the scope of what they were looking for. Inventory of every single document that was seized, picked up, looked at, touched, anything. Every single document and item that was touched in President Trump's home, there has been a demand for a full inventory of that. And keep in mind that Intel and Judiciary Committee have jurisdiction over this. Now, again, Republicans are in the minority, not by much, but by enough of a margin that Jerry Nadler, of all people, controls the Judiciary Committee. Now, when you're asking, why can't Republicans do an investigation now? Well, think about the January 6th committee. It's totally one-sided. It is a total sham. There's no cross-examination. It's just a half-baked attempt to make Republicans and President Trump look bad with no real effort to get to the truth. We have to do this the right way. We cannot let them win by falling prey to their half-baked schemes. So we're going to do this the right way. Judiciary is already gearing up with all of these document requests, building the case, getting the evidence in order. And in the meantime, what we can do, what you and me and every God-fearing American can do, is we need to stay focused on taking the House back.
Now I'm going to say, absolutely correct, but this is an editorial, and I'm only bringing, yes, one side of the story in, so don't get cancel crazy for this show. This just happened, was it last night? It's the night before. I wasn't around. I was off looking for my America. And while I was gone, this is what's going on. But the gist of this conversation is getting out the vote. But which falls on my previous conversation with Amy Loudenbach. I don't want her in office. There's other Republicans and conservatives out there, but somebody who violates the law simply to get her vote doesn't deserve to be in there. That's my opinion. And it sounds like Kat's not far from it. But yes, the subpoena should have been shown, has to have been shown to somebody when they knock on the door. Here's a subpoena. We got the right to search. Unless it was a total raid. I don't know.
I know that that's not what you want to hear. Trust me, I am just as frustrated as you. I have to go back to Washington, D.C. the end of this week to vote on a bill that does nothing to protect our country, to lower taxes or anything. It's all just a crazy distraction from what the Biden regime really wants, which is ultimately dependency and control. We have got to stop this, and we can stop it, but we have to be smart about how we do it. And so just know that there is a group of us that we are working on this. We are eye on the prize. We know that we are a nation of law and order, and we will protect due process. And we are going to get to the bottom of this, because when Republicans take back the House, it is going to be accountability first. It is going to be accountability first. There will be no longer a double standard in this nation by which people like Hillary Clinton and Hunter Biden live by, where the rest of us become targets of a highly politicized and weaponized federal government. We will not let this stand. So
that again is an editorial, and I, I'm going to soft shoe shuffle here. While it may be what I consider to be the truth, absolutely, and my viewers and listeners are going to say, yeah, that's the truth. I have to suggest that this has been the cry for the losing team forever and ever. When we take back control, and this is a nonpartisan statement, and I have to say, maybe a month or so ago, it was funny because I talked about elected deities, and is Trump a deity, a false quote unquote savior? I'm not sure. But in the scheme of caution, I have said that you can, as Americans, if you're a patriot, you cannot put all of your faith in one person. It doesn't work. It never works because the human factor always comes into play. And I'm not claiming that Trump is anything but a wide awake person, but he's a businessman and he's done X, Y, Z in his business dealings. We all have. We've done our own. We go to work, we make our money, we do our thing. Our things are different. But I have to caution here yet again, to park all of your eggs in one basket on one human being may not be what the good Lord calls for or wants. Be careful out there.
Just so you know, again, recap, all of the document preservation requests have gone in. All of the inventories have gone in. All of these issues are being handled. And let me tell you, we are pissed. And if you're not pissed, then you aren't paying attention. So I just know that you guys are frustrated and disappointed like we all are, but we cannot stop. We cannot say that we're going to just, let them do whatever they want to do. We cannot. We have to take back the House. And when we take back the House, that means that we get the real accountability and transparency that every single American in this country deserves, and due process. We are constitutional conservatives, and we love this country. And guys, I'm so disappointed with how everything has come to pass. But every day, every time that they try to screw with us one more time, it just makes me dig my heels in that much deeper and harder, because we have to fight. We have to fight. Our country is worth fighting for. And so I want you all to know that there is a group of people who we are on top of it, that we have already put the plan in place. It is in action. All those requests are going in, and we will hold the Biden regime accountable. We will hold the Biden regime accountable. I cannot stress that enough. And don't forget that while we are in the midst of dealing with this absolutely unprecedented, ridiculous witch hunt that the Biden regime is on, that they are pushing another nearly $1 trillion in spending to raise taxes on every single one of us. Keep in mind that while the FBI is raiding President Trump's house, they're getting ready to send 87,000 IRS agents to everyday Americans like you and I who make less than $400,000. They are weaponizing the federal government against us.
You know, I got to say that's but many of the points that are being made here. 87,000 IRS agents, commendable, probably a commendable thing. But I'm going to tell you, I've seen it through meme posts on Facebook and other social media platforms. 87,000 border agents would be far more important to America's stability than 87,000 IRS. Now, and let's not talk about the ammunition that's been disappearing through, what is it, UPS trucks? Let alone the availability of it to citizens, let alone the, talk about weaponization. Why does a Social Security? In 2017, I did a show on ammunition being bought by Social Security, the Department of Social Security. They need what I think it was 40 cal. And now the IRS exactly do you, and is anybody awake at what's going on? And I'll give you this. If the mainstream media that you are so addicted to doesn't talk about it, obviously it didn't happen, but don't you think you really should know what's going on with your XYZ tax dollars? Back to the school article we just talked about 2 seconds ago. There's a huge disparity between school districts. While the books that are being introduced, I can go back that when Kat's done. I'll be right back.
And we have to push back. We cannot sit down and just take it. We have got to stand up and really, really push to take the House back. That means if you have not signed up to be a poll watcher, you need to sign up. If you haven't gone and voted in your primary, you need to get out and vote. If you have not gotten involved in some way to protect the integrity of our elections, then you are not doing enough. So please get out there, get involved, help us fight and take our country back.
Here we go. Voter integrity. I can't say this enough, and she's absolutely correct. Be a poll watcher. Anybody can do it in any polling place in America. It takes a couple hours of your time, but guess what? Learn and to be a poll worker, you go through a class, or should. And to be a poll watcher, all you have to do is show up, state that you're a poll watcher. I think in Wisconsin they make you state if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It shouldn't be that way. As a citizen, you should be able to watch your polls. But get involved. Get up off your couch potato you-know-whats. Just like I said, go to the school library. Go to the public library and see if those books are in your place in your community. Same holds true. It's couple days a year, every couple of years. Who cares? Get there, do your thing.
We're going to do it the right damn way because that's who we are. We are law-abiding, due process, all about the Constitution, God-fearing Americans. So I'm telling you guys, I'm pissed, but we're fighting, and we're fighting smart, and we're fighting strong. So hang in there. As we get more information, we will post it, and I'm going to go inside and get out of the heat because it is hot as Hades out here. But yes, I will post up a whole nother video detailing the inflation act that is coming up on Friday because we cannot take our eye off the ball. We have 4 votes to peel off the Democrats in order to tank that bill. We will not get distracted. So hang tight. I'll post up some information on that, but wanted to touch base with you about this absolutely insane, obscene, disgusting raid that is going on right now and this attack and assault on President Trump. So hang tough. God bless. And we'll be talking soon. Thanks, guys.
Well, there you have it. And I get Kat. She posts enough, little bit of tidbits here and there, well needed. And she's kind of sort of like me. I swear like a drunken sailor. I'm not a sailor, but I swear like one. And I get it. And the problem with I see the rhetoric that's coming down out of a Kat and many other quote unquote conservatives is, we're gonna. Have you ever raised children? Yeah, I was going to do that. I never got around to it. And the political arena seems to be exactly like a 2-year-old. We're gonna do this, but then never do it. We're gonna do this, and that's where many patriots, not conservatives, patriots, are plenty pissed because they were tired of hearing the same thing, cycle after cycle after cycle. Well, yeah, once we get control back, we're gonna. And then it's old news. We don't have time to waste on that. Let's just make this happen, which is raise more money to raise more taxes. And I agree. Biden is just relentless with his taxation schemes. I what else can you say? But I got to reflect now to go back to the school systems, the disparity. And we talked about community standards being this level thing that if you go here, you go there, you'll have nuances of differences. But in the scheme of a state education program, one school district down southwest of here has this huge, and I'll do a in-depth with paperwork that you can see next show. Has this in-depth school list of supplies that has to be delivered for each child, not one child, but both childs. And we have a kindergartner and a fourth grader, which would be appropriate to that book we were just looking at. I have to find out if it's in that school district or not. And then the school district that's up here, where there is $0 being, there's no list. The school district's going to pay for every piece of whatever for every student. You need 3 things: a backpack, a set of gym shoes, and a water bottle or something like that. 3 things. That's it. The school district is picking up the tab for all supplies. And you ask yourself, why could that be? About 150 miles apart, off the top of my head, ballpark. 150 miles apart, school districts, 2 entirely different requirements for getting your child into public education. Now, there's a caveat to the one that doesn't charge anything. You talk about village idiots and court jesters. I got this one. For a school district to say, we're not going to charge you any supplies for your kids. Send your kids to our school. We'll teach them. Does that here? I'm going to make a comparison. Sounds just like a drug dealer. First one's for free. After that, you're mine. And that's exactly what the Rhinelander, Wisconsin School District is doing. $0 to send your kid to school. First one's for free. As they built a air dome, sports dome, via some, not all, some private funding, under the guise of, if you build it, they'll come. Not having the rooms to put up teams, coaches, to have tournaments inside the dome in this community. They got to drive 50, 100, 75 miles away to house their teams. We don't have the restaurant seats capacity. And while this year's school supply list is $0 cost to parents, the school board is devising the language to get another referendum. Oh, you know what that means? Tax dollars. Because they're broke and cannot support the curriculum that we're paying for with our school taxes. Did you hear that? I'm going to say it again real slow. The cost for children to go to that school district is $0 this year, but they're going to put a referendum out to the taxpayers telling you that they're broke, that they cannot support the curriculum that's being taught in the school district. Is that an oxymoron or what? I'm going to tell you that the school president, the school administration is talking out of both sides of their mouth. Well, let's create the trauma. We'll let them come to school for free, and then we'll claim we're broke. And the other school district, the school supply list for 2 students, kindergarten and 4th grade, is almost $300. Where is the community standards, the conformity, the equal application of the education system in the state of Wisconsin? I'm asking you straightforward. Parents, do you know what's going on in your school district. And yes, if you're on the gravy train, doesn't cost you anything. You know, it's a great thing, but you're not a property taxpayer. And that's where a lot of parents raising kids say, oh, you all retired people, you own the property, you can pay the bills. We can. I'm retired. I'm on a fixed income. Not sure what it is, but hey, it's not uniform. And that is what it's supposed to be. That you go from here to there. The school's educational material should be the same. So if you're at $300, okay, $150 a student. Let me get my calc out here quick. If you're at $150 a student and you have, let's just say 800 students in the district, in the school system, that's $120,000 that the school district says. If you have two, it's double that, $240,000, $250,000. Two students, $250,000. Where is the uniform educational code in districts? 800 students is not a lot of students in a high school or a school system, is it? 800 students? That is not a large school district by any stretch of the imagination. And the school district I'm talking about that's 150 miles away from here, I have a fly in here. Who let the fly in the studio? 150 miles away, I'll guarantee is a smaller school district than the one I'm talking about here with the dome. And it's not entirely paid for. Don't anybody tells you that dome in Rhinelander, Wisconsin has been paid for. They're blowing it up your you-know-what. That dome has not been paid for entirely, nor the maintenance, the continued maintenance of that dome. Not at all. And you can look at the math, follow the money. If you go to the school board meetings, get the paperwork. Guess what? Another violation of law, one of my companies has been taken off the press news release list, emailed. Here's a scheduled meeting. Here's the agenda. We don't get them anymore. And they're refusing to put us back on the list. Another thing legal staff's going to have to take care of. Tell you what, and the problem with that is by the time we're done suing them, we won't find a judge that'll levy the appropriate legal fines against them. Let alone they'll claim, well, you're taking the money away from the school district, so we can't teach because it's my tax dollars that I'm asking to have pay the violations for. One of the biggest oxymorons you're ever going to find across the board. You go to your local township and find a violation of the open meetings law. If closed session, open session, doesn't matter. You get a fine. It's $25 to $200 or something like that the city councilor violators, the chairman of the head of the committee, has to pay. It comes out of taxpayer dollars. They say it's not supposed to, but it does. Trust me, been there, done that. And because I know the law, I absolutely require people to hold to the law. I have been called by a city administrator the meanest son of a bitch in the Northwoods. Quote, unquote. And guess what? Because I record everything, I have it on recording. I have a recording of that conversation to an Oneida County sheriff investigating one of our complaints. Thank God that the investigating officer saw fit to provide me and continued to record the entire conversation, start to finish. It was supposed to be off the record, but it wasn't because there was an open mic. And I wear that flag. I should hang a flag up behind me. Meanest son of a bitch in the Northwoods. I didn't say it. And I'm not donating any money because I didn't say it. I was a city administrator, city lawyer, one and the same. Oh, yeah. The attitude of your elected officials goes well beyond anything you find in public. A couple of weeks ago, we We provided the video of the mayor, the new mayor in this town, doing burnouts in the middle of a parade route. Swamp dweller, socialist by any other name. And then the driver of the car, oh, I didn't know, I couldn't control it. You couldn't control it? Take it off the road, bucko. Here's the ticket. You watch the video. I put in the state statutes. Not once, twice, but down the entire parade route. When I've talked to some people who are at the beginning of the parade route, numbnuts was doing it up there. In front of police officers. I back the blue, except for those that don't follow the law. And it's applicable to every person in America. There is no, if you don't get nailed by the law, you're part of the swamp. See, that is exactly what the problem is in today's America, and why people are flying the flags upside down. Because we are upside down. Oh, special privileges here, special privileges there. You can't keep up with them all. And they're not sustainable. I'll guarantee you that. History proves that one right. And with that, I have to say adieu for today. I've been rambling on. This was an ad-lib show talking about community standards, which are really kind of nondescript because there is community across the board. Middle America, let's call it Middle America. Remember World War II, when Middle America woke up and said enough's enough? Look what happened. And I don't want to go down that road here. And I say it ain't going to end well. If you don't wake up, Middle America, get up off your couch potato butts, do a little something in your own community to make a difference. Get out, be a poll watcher, go to the library, dig out the stuff that your grandkids, your great-grandkids are going to start to be shoved down their throats. If it's not what America is about as a patriot and what made America what it is today, that we're willing to let go, as Mr. T used to say, I pity the fool. That's what's going to happen. It ain't going to be pretty. And with that, I got to say adieu. And be good to each other. When it's all over, it's got nothing. You can agree to disagree going in, but be good to each other. Calm down. Refer to the baseline that's supposed to be referred to, and make it so. And I'm sorry, you're not gonna please everybody, but we will have America back. And it doesn't necessarily have to happen. I made my prediction on last week's show, which was, I think, taken off the air, unless I was the show before that. I'm predicting, I'll say it here and now, Liz Cheney's going to jump ship to a demo and run for president. And you better watch out. That's a possible ticket. It will not be good for America. With that, what are we going to do here today? What are we going to close with today? I don't know. I don't have, nothing's going through today. So maybe my hard drive stopped. I don't know. We'll have to figure that one out. I didn't have any audio today. Whatever, and that's okay. And with that, God bless. God bless America. Be good to each other. And we'll catch you next time on the Just Jim Show.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a defender. So God made a patriot. God said, I need somebody willing to sacrifice everything, his fortune, his sacred honor, even his life, for liberty and something called inalienable rights that he cannot see but knows he cannot live without. So God made a patriot. God said, I need somebody willing to ride a horse through sleepy towns in the dark of night, sounding the alarm, entreating neighbors to take up arms against an overwhelming force of wicked tyranny. So God made a patriot. God said, I need someone who, even after crushing defeats, rises up and stands tall. Someone who hears the clarion call that these are the times that try men's souls and does not shrink from the trial. Someone who will cross a frozen river in the dead of winter, when all logic and reason says turn back, abandon hope. So God made a patriot. Then God said, I need a man who knows of the rise and fall of great nations, who knows of human nature and the corrupting influence of power and the fragility of liberty. I need this man, along with his like-minded brethren, to write an enduring constitution. So God made a patriot. God said, I need a person, one person, who's willing to do whatever it takes, even write a book to confront injustice and spark a movement that would tear apart a people so that chains will rightfully be shattered and a blessed union eventually emerge. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who, with the love of family and for the love of country, will cross a vast ocean and storm a heavily fortified beach. And, if he survives, charge through 200 yards of bullets and blood across that merciless beach. And if he survives, scale the towering cliffs. And if he survives, begin the long march to free a continent. And if he survives, return home and, with the same resolute determination, rebuild a nation, and someday be called the greatest generation. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who will, without thought of self, invest in schools and scouts and church and community, so that the proposition that all men are created equal remains a beacon to enlighten the world, and that such a beacon shall not perish from the earth. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone who will have the courage to not give up her seat on a bus and thus force a nation to confront its deepest divisions and heal the wounds and pursue the dream that inspires all hearts. So God made a patriot. And God said, I need someone strong enough to stand against any enemy, foreign or domestic, that would try to steal the freedom so dearly defended, the rights so righteously upheld, yet gentle enough to help a small child carry a star-spangled flag in a hometown parade. So God made a patriot. Then God said, I need a man who will speak the truth to his own leaders, that in order to preserve our great nation, we will not sacrifice the well-being of future generations for the sake of our own. Someone who will tirelessly toil day upon night, no matter the setback, no thought of surrender. Someone who will prayerfully rise every morning to climb the wall as a defender, duly endowed with the honored gift of generations before, while offering a solemn promise to generations ahead. A defender who will ensure that the way of truth and the torch of liberty remain forever lit in this shining city on a hill. So God made a patriot.